Saxon's Calculus Lesson 15 is about evaluating polynomials. Now, if you have not noticed so far in this book, they have taken most of what we did from halfway through trig to the end of the book, however far we got, and they are throwing it into your review lessons here for calculus and expecting this to feel like it's not brand new. So hopefully that is where you still are. So evaluating polynomials starting on page 87. The first thing they remind us of in this lesson is the remainder theorem. So if you recall, if we test an answer through synthetic division, and we get a 0 here for the answer, then that means whatever number we tested is an answer or a 0 for the polynomial. So they say if a constant c, so whatever this is a 0 of the polynomial, if we divide it and the remainder comes up 0. If the remainder is not 0, then whatever that answer is what you would get if you plugged in this number into whatever the equation was you were testing. So if it comes up 0, it's a 0 root answer of. If it comes up like 5 and this were 2, then the answer would be 2 comma 5. That would be the graphing point that you would use. Then they show you on page 87 how we do the long division, which we don't want to do because we've already learned the synthetic division as the shortcut. So I am not going to take the time to review long division because we're not going to use it. In part B, they switch to the synthetic division. So in the first example, they say use synthetic division to divide 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 7, and we're testing it with the x plus 1. So as you recall, I hope, the number that gets filled in, if you're pulling it away from the x, you change its sign. If it gives it to you and says test this number without the x, just use the number as is. And then we pull the coefficients off and make sure we pull a coefficient for every single exponent value. So the highest one is x cubed, so 2 is the number. X cubed, do I have an x squared? Yes, 3. Do I have a plain x? Yes, negative 4. Do I have a non-x? Yes, negative 7. So I put a number down for every single possible exponent. And then for synthetic division, we always drop the first number and multiply. Negative 1 times 2, negative 2. Add. 3 and negative 2 is 1. Now repeat. Negative 1 times 1, negative 1. Add, negative 5. Negative 1 times negative 5 is 5. Obviously, that's not 0. Negative 5 plus 5 is negative 2. So I know that negative 1 is not an answer or a 0 to this problem, but I could graph the number negative 1 yielding negative 2 for the y value. Use synthetic division to divide. It wants it in its equation form, right? No, I don't see them writing it as an, well, they sort of did. Okay, I think what they're looking for is this. Since we were testing from x plus 1, I'm going to put it back in its parenthesis format, and I'm going to use these coefficients as the other half. So 2 is the coefficient here, and whatever the highest one was, we drop it by 1 for this part. So it goes from x cubed to x squared, then plus 1, and I'm in descending order, x, and then minus 5 with no x, and all of that should equal 0, and that is the factoring. Unless I can factor this again, or quadratic it to look for other answers, but it's not asking me to do any of that. It was just asking for us to use the synthetic division. Now, example 2. Use synthetic division to evaluate 3x cubed minus 4x minus 2 with x equals 2. Now, I said without it being attached with the x, but this is saying x equals 2, not plus or minus. So I am actually testing 2. And then I'm pulling the coefficients. So x cubed is the highest. Do I have an x squared? Nope, better fill in a 0. Do I have a plain x, negative 4? Do I have a non-x? Okay. And then drop the 3 and do the synthetic division. 2 times 3 is 6. 0 plus 6 is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. Plus the negative 4. 8 times 2 is 16. So again, it's not a 0 answer, but the 2 would graph with 14. It didn't, just says use it to evaluate. So the answer would be 14 because that's what I would get Not a 0. Yeah, how they're writing their answers, I don't know, it's just kind of a little weird. Now, part C, rational root or rational zero theorem. I'm so used to calling it rational root theorem, but here they called it rational zero and then in parentheses put root. This is where we are using the coefficients to help us find the possible answers to fill in here without having to guess and test every number 0 to 100 or whatever. So in example 3, it says find the zeros of the function 4x cubed plus 2x squared minus 2x minus 4. And it just wants the answers, the zeros for this. So that means I need to start testing things. They didn't provide me something to test. And I know I'm going to use synthetic division because it's fast. So I'm going to go ahead and write the coefficients for synthetic division. So let's see, x cubed is the highest. So 1, x squared is 2. Plain x is -2, non-x is -4. And I know I'm going to drop the 1. Okay, so now back to my theorem. I need to pull the coefficients from the non-x term. So what things multiply to make 4? 1, 2, and 4. And those things will be in the numerator. What are the coefficients, or what are the factors of the highest valued coefficient, which implies a 1 here? So that's just 1. Oh, good. So the combination of these are the numbers I should test. At least, and because this exponent is 3, dropping it down by 1 tells me I will have at least 2 of these will work as an answer. So remember that it's positive and negative of each of these combinations. So 1 over 1 is 1, positive and -2, and positive and -4. So I have to pick one of those 6 to start with my synthetic division. They usually do the 1, so let's just do it. 1 times 1 is 1, 3, 3, 1, 1, well, that's certainly not going to be 0. Okay. Repeat my synthetic division start. Now let's test. I guess I could go to the -1. All right, so -1 times 1 is -1. That's 1. That's -1. That's -3. That's +3. Nope, didn't get a 0 yet. 1, 2, -2, -4. Drop my 1. All right, so now I can test. I don't know. I'm looking and I'm sort of cheating, so I don't have to do 13 million of them here. I'm going to test -2. -2 times 1 is -2, adds to 0. 0 times anything is 0. -2. -2 times -2 is +4. Ooh, -4 plus 4 is 0. Hallelujah, I just found that -2 works. As soon as I find one of them, I know that I'm going to have changed the sign. X plus 2 is that parenthesis. And then this one will be 1x, my highest was 3, so in here it's going to be squared, plus nothing x minus 2 for my non-x, and we know the whole thing equals 0. So can I solve this part? Yes, I can. It's written sloppy there, so I'm just going to rewrite it. All right, so then x squared equals 2, and then square root. So x equals, and when you square root, make sure you positive and negative in front of. So I have 3 answers, 3 zeros for this problem. The -2, the positive and negative root 2. And it wanted all of them found, so that is that list. Okay. I realized that I shortcutted by using the book, but eventually if you keep testing, you get to this 0 answer. The problem is however many you have to do until you hit that first one and can then switch it to an equation. If this equation would not have factored, I would have done the quadratic formula to get down to the next set of answers. Example 4. Find the roots for x cubed minus 7x minus 6 equals 0. So if I find my possible fractions to test, I'm going to list the factors of 6, 1, 2, 3, and 6 over, again, that's a 1, so there we go. Positive and -1, positive and -2, positive and -3, positive and -6. I really don't want to test that many, but you get the idea. So now my synthetic division, I'm pulling coefficient of 1. Do I have an x squared? Nope. Do I have a single x? Yeah, I don't want the x. And then do I have a non-x -6? Okay, dropping the 1. So I'm debating whether I should cheat and just look it up or not. I am. So I'm just going to pull the one I know is going to work because of the book, but technically I should have tested 1 first. -1 times 1 is -1, adds to -1, multiplies to +1, leaving -6, multiplies to +6. I get my 0. So I know that this one is an answer that works. So we will have x plus 1 in this, and then this part would be 1x squared minus 1x minus 6 equal the 0. 6, I'm seeing if I can factor it. 6 and 1 or 2 and 3. I'm hoping 2 and 3 maybe. 2 and 3. 3 is the larger of these numbers, so it would get the negative from the middle. How do I go from -3 to -1? I would add 2, and negative times positive is negative. Oh, good, it does work. So then my answers would be x equals the -1, the +3, and the -2. And they finally actually did list it so that it's easy to find the answers to check.